that chainsaw weighs 135 pounds. It's from the redwood forest, and even someone like Kane can't hold that thing up by himself. So there was a cable on the other side with two dudes like hanging on it to try to keep that thing straight. And then you have two actors who are cabled to the ceiling and they're being lifted up at the same time and then cut in half with all the different pieces and stuff. But that's part of the fun of doing this.
And when we were kids, man, we would see gore scenes, and a lot of times you could see the seams, but not always. And you'd be like, how the fuck did they do that? And nowadays, that mystique is kind of gone, because anybody could just be like, hit it with computers, bye. You know, like, a lot of the mystery is kind of gone, I think.
Yep. One thing I got to talk about there in the other theater when we got started was this movie was planned before we ever shot the first one. So there was like sort of painstaking effort in making the first one to have somewhere to go with the second one. So if you go back and you watch Hatchet 1 now, little things like you can see the chainsaw that we established that already in the shed. There's things like we zoomed in on the kid in the pig mask for no reason in the flashback, and a lot of people would always ask me why. Now you know. And then even when Crowley's going to take off Sean's head with the shovel, he stops and looks up at Mary Beth, and they share this like moment where he recognizes her. Now when you go back and watch the first one, some things make more sense, and you can actually cut the films together as one coherent movie, which I think is kind of cool. And the only difference is that the main actress got better in the second one.
Oh, very nice. Now, what I like about the film is it really is, I mean, it's all set up in the first 35 minutes. You know, you're setting down the legend, you're letting people meet the characters, and you're hoping that in a horror audience will be like, look, there's not any kills yet, just stick with me.
That's one of the hardest things with doing a slasher movies, because you got a percentage of your audience that just wants to see people get killed, and they're really bored when anything else is happening. So you'll like watch, and you just see people like whenever there's like talking, and they're like, oh my god, acting, story. And then the other half who thinks like, dude, there better be something more to this than just people getting killed. I will always err towards having story, and I think that in a slasher movie, especially when you have like a big cast like this, the easiest way to try to get the audience to know somebody is through a little bit of a sense of humor, but to try to keep the humor out of your villain. Like you'll never see Victor Crowley like cracking jokes or something like that. I mean, the tone of these is obviously just for fun, but that is an interesting thing to point out. And in truth, when this screened in London, I cut 4 more minutes out of it. Even though it played great and every review was good, it just felt like there were some story things that I didn't necessarily need, and we can save them for the DVD. All the gore and everything is still in it, but I wasn't here when you guys were talking about it. But do you really think that this deserved an NC-17?
No.
No.
I can see why it got it. I don't know if I'm the person to say it deserves or doesn't, but I think why you have it is because if she goes chop, 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 that's R. If you cut back to her chopping 4 more times, that's an NC-17.
Yeah, they wanted her to hit him once.
Yeah, so fuck them.
It was, we cut like a minute and a half out.
Did they ask Judd Apatow to take the raunchy jokes out of his movies? That's the bread and butter. If you take the gore and guts out of it, that's the bread and butter, and fuck them. You know what I mean? Like, you're going out unrated, and that's the first time since what? Romero did it in like 85 or something like that.
Yeah, it's been like a quarter of a century or something like
that. Now, the
that.
MPAA, that you had minor issues with them in the past, and now, to them, you're Kaiser Soze, basically.
I'm sort of a marked man. I might be killed in my sleep before Friday. This might be my last Fantastic Fest. But that's another reason why it is. I really, really hope, for all the stuff that people say about being, anti-censorship and all these things, this isn't even like a controversial movie, which is why the whole thing is funny to me, that this is the one that's like the winds of change. Like when people look back and like, because hopefully it works. And it's not like this 50 years from now, and people are like, what was the movie that fought back? And they're going to be like, Hatchet 2. It wasn't, Antichrist or Irreversible or like one of the, Hatchet 2. So, yeah, I think that's kind of funny. But I do hope that people do get out there on this coming weekend and support it. I mean, even if you're not into this stuff, I just hope film fans buy a ticket and then, go.
Whatever you're seeing this weekend, buy a ticket for Hatchet 2. And
yes, please.
Sneak right in. Would like to speak to some of Adam's friends and fans here. Anybody? Anyone? You could ask him how, he just got married. You could ask him about that.
Yep, I just got married. Dee Snider married my wife and I.
Dee Snider did the ceremony, is that right? So, I'll ask the most pedantic question possible, even though you answered it in the film. What happens if the studio or a distributor or your producers come to you and say, we want a third one?
That's kind of already happened to some extent. And I'm all for a third one. As of now, if they were gonna do it today, I would not be writing or directing it. I think I would stay on as a producer and kind of handpick who we're gonna pass the torch to. There's something about the original franchises where so many great writers and directors got their start doing one of those films, and I think that would be great to give somebody their first chance. But at the same time, this is my baby. I mean, the first one took like 22 years to make because I thought of it when I was 8. So I am very close to it, and maybe we'll wait a few years to do it. And that's kind of why this worked out. I got to go do Spiral and produce Grace and make Frozen, so I was ready to come back to this because I like to do different things. I can't always do something like Frozen. I can't always do something like this and be this excited about it.
I think I know the answer to this, but